Hi, welcome to the channel. My name's Kent. This is Oakley's DIY home renovation. I'll be renovating this 1,600 square foot home. It was built in about 2008. Along the way, I hope to show you some tips and tricks that I learned and some definite do's and don'ts that I learned. So there's a lot to be done on this project, so let's get started. So here we are in my garage, which was the first project that had to be done. My garage, while it still looks very cluttered, is a huge improvement from what I used to have. Starting here at the door that leads into the house, all I had was just a little strip of concrete here for a walkway down to the garage door. And from there, another little strip across here in order to get to my workbench. And then coming back down this little alleyway here, if you will, back towards the door, all I had was a little narrow strip to get down here to get to the refrigerator and down here in order to get to the sprinkler control and my hot water heater. The first project was this Gearwall system here. I got this from Home Depot. It comes in 1 foot wide slats by 8 foot long. You can get them in 4 foot long. They come two to a box, which gives you a 2 foot wide by either 8 foot or 4 foot, whatever you choose. I chose the 8 foot. Now I got 3 boxes or 6 feet. How did I determine that? Well, I taped off on the floor a square that was 8 foot by 8 foot, and that was what I had to work with. And I got all my tools together that you see on this wall and started laying them out on the floor within that 8 foot by 8 foot square. And when I got them all laid out, I measured down to see just how far it was, and it happened to be about 6 feet. So that's how I came up with 6 feet. The other thing I had to do was I had to measure how far down from the ceiling it would start, because as you can see, some of this stuff, while it hangs on a hook, touches the ceiling. And so I had to have room for that because I wanted to make sure I used as much of this wall as possible and didn't go to waste. And so from there, as you can see, like that hook right there hooks in the first groove that there is. And so from there, I went down 6 feet. The other thing I did was found the studs. So the first stud off the wall was here. Now in this particular framing, it's every 16 inches. And so I run a tape measure over about 16 inches and then start with my stud finder and find the studs. And every 16 inches I hit a stud until I came here and I had a set of studs in between there, and I took advantage of them. And as you can see, I put screws in every groove on the track at every stud all the way down. I wanted to make sure there was no way this thing was going to buckle under any kind of weight. I believe the weight rating on this is 50 pounds per square foot. So I've got 8 foot by 6 foot and 50 pounds per square foot, 48 square feet. That's 2,400 pounds. I got nothing near that. So it's holding up quite well. The track is very, very sturdy. It's about a 1/2 inch thick. It's extruded like heavy plastic. I mean, it doesn't bend it. And then it comes with several different hook systems you can get. You can get baskets and all kinds of things on there, which I didn't need. The hooks I bought, I did get those at Lowe's because I happened to have them in stock. So I didn't have to wait to order them. And then I just went and hung it. It took me maybe 3/4 of a day to get it hung and everything put on there. So it's a real easy project. I just started off from the floor and drew a level line, and that's where I laid my first panel. And from there, just stacked them one on top of the other and drilled screws right into every one of them. I pre-drilled every hole in the Gearwall plastic and then just sunk them. I didn't countersink holes. I just let the screws do the countersinking. And up it went. I used 2-inch screws. It comes with a guide in the package as to what length screws, depending on what you're putting it into. Since mine's sheetrock into wood framing, 2 inches, I think it said 1.5 inches, but I went an extra 1/2 inch because I wanted that much more strength to be sure that this thing was not falling. You can hang it into masonry blocks and brick and sheetrock only, and plain wood framing with no sheetrock, and it gives you all the details as far as what screw length and size of screw. In fact, I just bought a box of, I think it was a 1 pound box of their exterior screws. They're not deck screws, and they're not sheetrock screws. They're exterior grade screws, and put them in. And so I've used every inch that I can. And the next project was this garage ceiling storage unit. This particular one is 4 foot by 8 foot. They come in 4 foot by 4 foot, 4 foot by 5 or 6 foot, I think. This particular one's rated for 600 pounds. That center brace you see did not come with it. I had to manufacture that and add that in because of the weight I put on here. So how this works is it screws, it has actually lag bolts that go right into your ceiling joist. So what I had to do was go up in my attic, see where the wall is, measure off to see where the joist is. I come down and used a stud finder. Yeah, it's kind of repetitive to do that, but I wanted to be sure where I started. And in fact, as you go down this wall, it may be, I don't know, say 7 inches here, but I think down at that end it's like 7.5 inches. So again, this doesn't run square. And then 4 foot over, you put your next bracket. Well, while my ceiling joists are on 2 foot centers somewhat, when it came to 4 foot from here, it did not hit a ceiling joist. So I had to go up in the attic, which I'll show you here in a little bit, and put in some bracing and fabricate some strong arms and stuff to hold this all up, to bolt it in and lag bolt it in 4 spots. The center brace, what happened here is when I first started putting everything up there, it sagged in the center so much that I couldn't open my refrigerator door, for which I can now. And so the first thing I did, I thought, well, maybe I just need to sturdy the center of this up. So I went and got some 1/8 inch flat bar aluminum, and I got it for about 4 foot and put it in the center here. Now all these holes that you see were already in here. I didn't drill any new holes into this metal, because they were like these 2 holes here, there's a brace under here. This hole here, it was already here, because this can be made into a 4 foot or an 8 foot section. So I just drilled the holes into the aluminum to match these, the same size, and put these bolts in. And then I did this on the front side and the back side. And then I reloaded this up, went to open the refrigerator door, and bam, it hit. So that didn't work. So my next idea was this. I fabricated a brace that again fit into holes that were already here to support the center. And in doing that, it actually takes it up to 800 pounds, because in the book that comes with it, if you separate this out into 4 foot by 4 foots and put them right next to each other, they can handle 400 pounds on each side. So I figure I got close to 800 pounds worth of ability here. But basically what I did was I got some 3/16 flat steel, drilled the holes to match here, the exact size, run it up. I fabricated this bracket out of angle iron to match this one. In fact, the angle iron is thicker than what this is, but I did slot the holes. They don't look quite as pretty, but they did work well, and bolted it in. And those are 3/8 inch lag screws up into studs. And then these are 1/2 inch bolts in from here into the angle iron. Now, I looked into having the angle iron and this brace here all manufactured CNC style, but they had like a $300 minimum, and I wasn't going to meet it, and it really wasn't worth that extra cost to do that, so I did it myself. The paint I got at Home Depot. They actually come with you can get a paint that, as you can see, kind of matches this textured paint here. They sanded them down. I cleaned them with mineral spirits. I primered them and then painted them, brackets and the braces and everything. And then put it all back together again and then hung everything up. And then voila, the refrigerator doesn't hit. And one final thing I had to do was after about a month and a half, all of a sudden this thing sagged and my refrigerator door started hitting again. So I took everything back off. I put a laser level, hooked a laser level to the track of the garage door here and ran a line all the way around. And I measured from that line to the ceiling in that corner, at the back brace, this front brace, this center brace, that back center brace, that back brace over there, that front brace, in a line against that wall, at the garage door opener, a line across there, that corner, there, at that edge, and right here, and took all those measurements. And what I found is from the wall itself to the front of this shelf is out by an inch. The ceiling drops an inch, and the most of it is right in this area here. Is the biggest part of it, because actually it only drops about a half inch there, and then from here it comes back up. From being out an inch there, it comes back up to only being out about a half inch, and from here over to there is the same, over on that wall and over on this wall. So all of the ceiling in this area is out of plumb, if you will. And the reason is, and I'll show you when I go up in the attic, is that my roof system is not a truss system. It's actually what I call a stick built. They built it with 2x lumber, and they had to put braces in areas to hold the roof up so it wouldn't sag. And because of that, that weight and how they've got it braced is actually pushing down on my ceiling joist in this area an inch. I thought about cutting those braces and seeing if it'd make the garage ceiling come up an inch, but then I got to thinking, if it does, the worry would be is my roof would sag an inch, so I left it alone. And basically what I went up and did is rebraced all this with a double set of strong arms at each joist or stud that I used to put these 3 braces in, because remember, this one here did not line up with a ceiling joist, nor did that one or that one. So I had to put some in here. So I put strong arms or strong backs against these, and then I put another set of strong backs that tied into the whole thing, and got it to hold it up to where I can open up my refrigerator door without it hitting. Basically what I did was when all this stuff was off, I put a 2x8 up against the ceiling in here, and you can kind of see where that scuff mark, that's where it's set. And then I ran 2 2x4s up against them, one at the one end and one at the other end, and then I used floor jacks and jacked up the ceiling there about a half inch. So that made it from the wall to there only out a half inch, and from there to here it made it even. And then once I put my strong arms on and released everything, I think I lost quarter to like 3/8 of an inch. And so then I put everything back on and remeasured, and I lost, I believe, 5/8 of an inch from where I had it with the bracing, or with the floor jacks holding it up till it sagged, was about 5/8 of an inch. And so this here now opens, while it might be close, that is plenty of room. The most I ever had was 3/4, and I think I've got, about half that there. And it's been like that for a couple of months. I'm quite thrilled. It's holding, and it's doing a great job. Now, these racks, one thing I forgot to mention is this one here, I believe, is at 22 inches. Let's measure here and see real quick. actually from ceiling to, yeah, 28 inches to the bottom. But you get about 24 inches, 24 and a half inches of storage space there. It comes with extensions that aren't being used. You can take it down to where you get 40 inches. But to do that, you can see it would not fit. And I only have an 8-foot ceiling. Now, my wife being shorter, she can walk right under this without worrying. Me, on the other hand, to get under here, I've got a duct to go under. So while this may look like a pain, what you don't realize is I had no more than what this is here to the refrigerator for an alley to walk before I redid all this. Now I've got from here to at least here. So I can go on the outside of this and walk down here and come around it to get to what I need to. It is a huge improvement. Huge improvement. As you can see, this one particular model I bought at Home Depot also. I got it on sale. I think it was a little under 200 bucks. It came as a kit with some hanging brackets there, and there's one there, and there's another one under here that I'm not using right now. It has some other ones that hang underneath here, but as you see, I got no room to put them. So they're tucked away in a box on the shelf. As you can see, I got these two hooks here holding up this aluminum ladder brace that you'll get to see in action a little bit later. And I got a little hat rack. Alright, we're up here in the attic, and right in front of you is one of those braces that I told you about that runs from the ceiling joist all the way up to the rafters of the roof. That one and that one right there, granted that one also hooks into a longer type of brace system, are the two that I had to deal with putting the ceiling of the garage out by an inch. As you see, cutting that would have liable to have made this roof sag. And as you can see, like I told you, this is all stick built and not trusses. So, as we talked about, I bought these tongue and groove 2x4 foot attic boards. I think I got 6 or 8 of them put up here so I can maneuver around without having to play hopscotch on the ceiling joist and fall in. So over there where the insulation is where the garage wall starts. The wiring that you see right there is the wiring to the switch for the lights out in the garage. And that's how I know that's the wall. And then there's the first joist of the ceiling in the garage, and that's where the braces along the wall were anchored in all along down there. That black is insulation around my PEX piping. So as you go here, there's 2 foot, and you come over here, there's another 2 foot, then there's a double, and that's 2 foot and 2 foot and 2 foot roughly. So at 4 foot, right where you see that screw there, is where the braces for the outside of that 4 foot shelf hit. And so what I did was I cut a 2x8 to fit between these two trusses. I shouldn't say trusses, but between these two joists for the middle one, and down there where you can't see is the end one. And between there, that's not where it's hooked in. What I have is a 3 foot, let's see if I can get around here to show you. I have a 3 foot 2x8 that runs parallel with the joist, and then I have these two perpendicular at each end boards that it hooks to, and then those are hooked into the ceiling joists themselves. And then the same thing down there for the far one. Now this front one, because of the orientation of the brace, I just had to run one across here. And these are anchored into the joist with, on this one, these are
4-inch, I believe, 4-inch exterior screws and some of these construction type screws that are self-tapping. And then the same with there. Those are 3-inch. Again, I did a mixture. I put on top and bottom the construction screws. In the center I put exterior screws. The reason I did that was because when I redid this for the third time, I replaced some of these screws with these construction type screws. I can't quite recall the name. And for more holding power and more weight rating, and I put them across on that one there, if I can get down there for you to see it, at each spot. And same thing with over there, if I can get a close-up of it. I'm trying not to walk all across here because it's going to make this picture all jumbly and shaky. So I screwed those in, and then what I did was on this one and this one, where each one of these boards went right here, where each perpendicular board went, I put a 2x4 over it and screwed into the joists. It's 10 foot long. Each one of these are 10 foot long. These right here are 10 foot long. I did one there and one there and one there and one over there. So where each one of these hit is where I did the 2x4 brace. And then I took 2x6s and stood them up on the edge as strongbacks and screwed them in. I think it's every 6 inches. Screwed those in. Now, so that I could get the bow out, what I did was I took clamps. It would clamp to this board here and the one underneath and pull it down together. And that way when I got done and got the screws all set and let my clamps go, the crown, I made sure the crown went this way on any of the boards, so that if it was going to crown up, I wanted it to crown up into the attic so they would have extra holding power for when I loaded up the shelf. And then after I did all that, the storage shelf itself sits from here over to there, and I put two 2x4 strongbacks that you see running here, all the length, actually they're 10 foot, so they're evenly spaced. Actually the one run ends right here, ends right there, and then it runs down there for 10 foot. And I screwed these in with 6-inch long of those construction screws, so I get a good bite into here all the way down. And so that way this bowed up with any camber, and then this bowed up with any camber. And again, I use clamps to clamp it down so they'd be tight against the boards. And so when I released everything, if there's going to be any camber, it would come up into the attic and help hold this up. And what I did was I used 10 foot long braces when I put them in. Now why 10 foot? Because that's all I could get up the access hole in the attic, because the access hole is in the area where the roof is low towards the end of the eave, and to go any longer I couldn't get them up in here. As it was, those 10 foots were a little bit tough to finagle up in here. So that's how I double braced that shelf to hold the weight that it currently has. So I've got quite a bit of stuff put up there and out of the way. And the next thing was getting my bicycles out of the way. You see, I have both of these bikes hanging along here, and then I didn't have room for this third one to hang that way because it would run interference with my hot water heater. So I have a hook there, an actual bicycle hook, and it hangs vertically. The hooks themselves I had from previous that were, again,
stored away in all the clutter, and I found them, hooked them to these 2x8s, which then I entailed hooked to the ceiling joists with 4-inch, I think they're 3.5, 4-inch exterior screws also, and got them hung up out of the way. They hang down probably all but about 3-4 feet from the floor. That plug that I'm showing you there, that's actually new. Then the other thing I did was I found studs to put these. They're called tornado hooks. I got these I had some already. I got the rest of them at Home Depot. I don't even think they carry them anymore, but I do believe you can get them off of Amazon, and they're really nice because they got big heavy screws. So if all you can do is screw it into sheetrock, they'll hold, I think, 25, 30 pounds. And then in this case, it goes through sheetrock and into stud framing, it holds up to 40, 45 pounds, I think. And so I've got those on there. I've got some prefabbed sawhorses I've made. I've got actually 3 sets of those that hang on there. I've got one of the hooks is using for my extension cord to go on. Again, this is another outlet I had put in. My wooden ramps I got there, I put them, they're going up against the wall, as you can see. And the other thing I did too was I put eye hooks in here and one over back there in the corner you can't see, and use these bungee cords to hold them up so they don't fall and away from the garage door track. And then all of my tie downs are hanging here. They hang right there on the garage rack, nice and out of the way. So I got these 2 boxes here. I got these off of Amazon to organize my screws and various other things. Before they were just kind of sitting in a bucket and you had to rummage through, or a box to find them. And so now it's quite nice to just be able to open up a drawer there, find the screws or bolts you need, and off you go. I've got this shelf here. The plan is all the stuff on these 3 shelves we're going to wind up in a cabinet that I'm going to build to go against this wall here. The plan is for it to go from the ceiling down to the top of, or right near the top of this wall plate for this outlet, and over about 36 inches. So I don't know if I'm going to do 2 18-inchers or one 24 and a 12 or what. You can see up there, see if I can get a close-up of that. You can see another one of those little tornado hooks that I got. Worked out quite nice. Granted, when I put my shelf or my cabinet in, all this will have to be moved and arranged, but that's okay. The hope is by getting the stuff off of those 3 shelves over there into this cabinet will free up room for most, if not all, this stuff that's sitting here along the floor against this wall to go over there, and that'll get my lawnmower, which I'm hoping will go down in here against the wall, out of the way. Because as I've mentioned, I've got a wall plug there that's a dedicated plug, a 30-amp plug for my table saw when I buy it, because I'm going to set it up here. So the hope will be is when I get to all that, I'll have from about here over to here, which is probably 6, 7, 8 foot maybe, to have a table saw. I've got plans to get a drill press, a jointer. I've got a planer, but it's in a box over there with stuff stacked on it. So the last thing I had done in my garage was lighting. All I had was this single light here, and it wasn't this particular light. It was just a fluorescent, or not a fluorescent, but just an incandescent 60-watt bulb. And believe me, this place was a dark hole, even with this all organized with just that bulb. You couldn't see anything. So what I did was I took that box off, that outlet off for that light, and put this LED 10,000 lumen light up. And this thing, when I first put it up, It was bright. I got it at Home Depot. I think it was right at $100. And so the plan was to put these two up, because that was so bright I didn't think I needed it. So I got 7,500 lumen ones for these two. Now these two here are on a separate switch, and this is on its own switch. And what we did is wired it. This used to be just a 2-switch box, and so we got another. We left that one alone because that goes to the light outside the garage here, and put this double switch in here in order to control these two lights. And while this may not be as bright as some workshops that you'll see, this is a huge improvement. I can see what I'm doing. I'm not in the dark like I was before, especially when I'd come over here to my workbench. I can actually see things now, whereas before it'd be dark. I'd have to either have the garage door up or a flashlight to kind of try and see anything because it was so dark. The nice thing about these lights is they only hang down about 4 inches. So it's real nice. The garage door doesn't interfere. There's plenty of room between them and the garage door. So that's it for my organizational undertaking here for my garage. I hope you got some ideas from that and learned a few things. And we'll see you on the next video, where we'll be going outside and working on getting the house painted. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe, hit the like button. You got some other ideas for some things going on in here, put it in the comments below, and we'll see you on the next video.